Welcome to the Say Yes Movement podcast with Heather and John, where we help you with your professional and personal growth, helping you say yes to all the scary stuff. Good morning, Heather. How are you?
Good morning, John. Good morning, everyone that's listening. It is a happy Friday, and I am excited to be here. Now, John, you know how we start our Friday.
Yes.
We start with something that we are thankful for that has positively impacted us because we want to reframe our brain, but we love it when our listeners share their positive impacts as well. So tell me, John, what are you thankful for? What happened this week that was positive?
Yeah, no, listen, this week has been a great week working with clients. So I'm going to celebrate that. I had the opportunity to fly out to Ottawa for the day on Tuesday and meet with some clients there. It's just been a really good client week, right? Having great conversations and just appreciating and expressing gratitude to all the people that I get to work with every week. How about you, Heather? What are you celebrating this week?
Oh, John, it's been just, there's just so many moments that we have as humans to make a difference in people's lives. And I got to speak on a panel. It was last week, but I'm still getting some feedback on it that it's really resonated. And it was a conversation about resilience. And it was at the Greater Toronto Contact Center conference. And it was emotional. And I shared some personal stories. And it's really resonating with people. And sometimes when we're most vulnerable, sometimes when we share our broken heart moments, we can all feel more human together. And for that, I am celebrating because the notes that I've gotten of people saying, hey, I'm going through something similar, or I know what you're feeling, or I didn't know what to do, I felt the same way, those are magical human connection moments. So I'm celebrating human connection today, John.
Wow. Listen, I wish I was there. I wish I was there listening to your speech. Yeah, listen, it's something special. And we talked about this, in our workshop as well, in and around expressing vulnerability when you're sharing your story with people.
Yeah.
Right?
The
So
best
powerful.
compliment that I got was someone said, can I have the recording of it? I want my daughter to hear this message.
Wow.
And I was just like, wow, that is the best dad or parent moment that I've ever seen. But it got me thinking about, what does it feel like to be a woman that sees someone that looks and sounds just like them in the workplace or in life, and especially with all the turmoil that's going on in the world, and a lot of controversy around women's rights, and how does that feel to see someone that looks and sounds just like you? And that's, no matter who you are in the world, when you can look up to someone and say, oh, I can do that, it helps motivate you. John, you have your future self show up for you all the time to show you the path and when you're on track. So, imagine everyone has that guiding light to help take them to that next level of their own leadership and level up.
Yeah. Listen, I'm always looking for that future me that's out there, that person, in NLP, in neuro-linguistic programming, we call it modeling, right? We want to find that one person. And actually, I shared our story this week with somebody in terms of how we met, because I was looking to model you, right? And, as a leader in terms inside the organization. And the model can be anybody that kind of represents who you want to be in the future. Because I was thinking about this week, like, how do we grow, right? Like, how do we move from one state, right? Like, we both started entry level positions inside of an organization, and we moved our way through it. And what happened, I think, through that process is finding those models that help us get to that next level. It allows us to change our self-image.
100%. But John,
Right.
say a little bit more about the modeling process, because, it's not just, find a mentor or find someone that's doing the things that you're doing. There's a specific process to modeling that we do that helps us see the world through that person's eyes. So say a little bit more about that process.
Yeah, no. Well, when it comes to modeling, you're right. It's not just exactly taking the same steps that they took, but understanding what made them take the steps. Understanding the mindset behind the steps, right? So, for example, it's like walking into, an event, a race, or whatever, knowing I can finish.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one mindset. And the other mindset is I can finish in if you're doing a 5K a 5K run, I can finish a 5K in under 30 minutes. That's another mindset. I could do that. And then you just build that resilience. So part of, modeling, and what I love about modeling is you have to go deeper. You have to understand what's causing them to make the decisions, what's causing them to take the action, what's the why behind the drive to keep moving forward. And that is more than just, I can take exactly the same steps you take, but we have different results. And part of that could be is, my thinking isn't quite the same. So, and I shared a video, I shared it with you this week. Ben, who is a presentation speaker, I love his guy. And he talks about the energy we give out into the world, makes us lucky, right? And if we're putting positive energy, listen, we're not perfect, right? We're still going through the process. We're still understanding what it takes to get to that next level. But our mind is shifting every single time. And, how we approach those challenges, those difficulties, those chaotic moments, because they're going to show up, right? How do you deal with them in a way that's incredibly effective? And modeling somebody who stays calm during those moments is incredibly important. What's running through their mind and saying, wow, you know what? Yeah, everything's kind of like burning, the building's on fire. Let's just pull up the fire hose and let's start watering this down so we can put out the fire. Like, start taking those actions. Diane and I, we had a situation years ago where my barbecue caught on fire, right? Like it just kind of happened because there was, whatever, it caught on fire. And, I was outside barbecuing. She didn't know what was going on. And I said, I opened the door and I'm like, Diane, can you just go get me the fire extinguisher? Really calm, really relaxed. And she's like, why? I'm like, just go do it now. I just need it. And she comes up, she sees this giant flame. And I'm like, it's okay. I got it. I know exactly what steps to take. We're going to put it out. And we did, and everybody was safe. But, in those moments of crises, those moments that are really tough, it's like, how are you going to respond to those? And part of what you can do through modeling is, ask somebody, what do you do in your most difficult moments, right? Like this, I've had a lot of conversations, a lot of coaching conversations this week. And, one of the things people are looking for are mentors. But, there's a key to building a mentor relationship. And part of that is if I'm going to be sharing something with you, I want to know whether or not that's landing on you and whether or not that's going to work for you. Right? And that's part of the reason why our story came up in terms of how we met. Because I reached out to you and wanted to know what you were doing, because there was a lot of things I liked that you were doing, public speaking and, just really making impact and, the people around you. And, we got in a little bit deeper, right? I started to understand how you started to do it, what was going on in your mind as you were doing those things. And part of it was just coming back to you saying, yeah, you shared this with me. This is the action I took. And that's how you grow and develop that mentor relationship.
Yes. I have a couple great modeling stories too that, anyone can help people see themselves differently than they might see themselves. And I remember I was at a speaking engagement and I was on stage and someone put their hand up and was really brave and said, I would love to be on a stage like you one day. And they projected as if it may never happen. Their voice tone wasn't confident. They weren't sure they could ever do it. They couldn't get out of their own way. And so I said to them, okay, come up on stage. And the whole audience just gasped, like, oh my goodness, like this is the craziest thing I've ever heard. And finally she was able, and I said, and I invited her to stand right beside me. And I said, in a moment, I'm going to ask you a question and you know the answer, because of course I'm not going to ask a trick question. But when I ask this question, you're going to step and stand right where I am today. And what I was doing is I was inviting her to get past her fear, take action right away, which is, of course, one of the things that we say, and then stand in my shoes, stand right in the spot that I was standing and command the audience. So I had her adjust her shoulders, I had her adjust her chin, take a deep breath, and then I asked her a question. What are you most passionate about? And she just instantly lit up the room. It was a standing ovation moment. And so, and I invited her to face that fear, jump in, but stand in my shoes. Because she said, I want to do what you're doing. Okay, then come stand right where I am. And that is what modeling looks like. And, I do it at work as well. And I've done it in different situations where people are unsure, or they're not bringing their best ideas to the table. And a lot of times, and this is very important for you to hear this, titles are in the way. The top person in the room isn't the smartest person in the room. In fact, usually the answer is somewhere else. And when I saw that my team might have the answers, but they weren't sharing it, I would say to them, can you sit in my seat and now tell me what you see differently and what's the answer? And that change of where you're seeing the world from changes everything. So, just a couple tips on how you can invite people to model new behavior by letting them stand in their absolute power.
Yeah. No, listen, I love that. And listen, you don't have to be on stage. You don't have to be at work.
No.
You can try this at home, right? Like,
Yes.
this is an exercise that every once in a while we do with my family. Everybody's like, what do you mean we're doing this? Just change, like, everybody in their home. I'm making an assumption here, but maybe I'm wrong. But in my home, at least, everybody has their designated spots.
Yes.
Right?
The kitchen table, right? At the kitchen table.
At the kitchen table, right? Everybody has their, like, I sit here, Diane, and everybody kind of sits in their spot. And it doesn't matter what happens. Even if there's someone missing, everybody still sits in their own spots, right? Like, there's none of this mixing around, everybody sitting in different spots. So an exercise that you can try just to get the perspective and see something different is sit in somebody else's spot at the table.
Golden.
And see how that feels. One of the exercises I take, trainees, coachees, when I'm doing presentation skills or, public speaking, when you go into the room, actually sit in different physical spots within the room so you can see how the audience is going to see you, right? Yeah. Sit at the back seat, sit in the right-hand corner, sit in the middle, sit at the front. Are you too close? Are you going to be spitting on them? Like, just be careful. Just find a place, like, from the center of the stage. How is everybody seeing you? And part of the way to get to that comfort zone, and I learned this from a 1999 World Public Speaking Champion, is, sit in different spots around the room.
Yes.
And it really does connect you with the audience. And the other piece, Heather, and I think this, is, meet as many people as you can, because, you think you're talking to strangers, but if you've already met somebody, you're not a stranger anymore, and you're a friend, or at least you've made a connection, an initial connection. And I know, some of the greatest speakers that I listen to, some of them will stand at the front of the room and, they'll welcome everybody into the room as a way of connecting with everybody.
Ooh, I love that. That's right? Such a good tip.
Yeah. If you're in a room with like 2,000-3,000 people, it might take some time, but, in a smaller venue, in a smaller type of event, especially in a work meeting, as you're, walking everybody into the meeting and, talking to them, you're creating connection. So this way, when you're starting to speak and you're starting to get ready to go and, share what you need to share. And the other piece is, we talk about this all the time, it's not about you, right? One of the quickest ways to get over the nerves of sharing information, content with people, like you did with the lady on stage, is, don't make it about you, make it about them, make it about, what they're going to take away, make it, get really excited about, I got some great information, I'm passionate about this. And this is what you can learn about what I'm passionate about. And there's always interesting things that, when people are passionate, you share things. Like, last week I had something called the Persian, which is like a donut in Thunder Bay. That is like the thing, right? Everybody's got to have. I'm like, what the heck's the Persian? So somebody brought me a Persian, and I was like, ooh, all right, 1,200 calories in a donut. Fantastic. Let's have this thing. But you don't do that without, like, this is where you start to learn all the little things, right? Like, this is where you start to make the connections.
Well, I, in that story about the girl speaking on stage, one of the things that I also did, and this is an important piece to help people's confidence, is I said to her, the question, the answer to the question I'm about to ask. And that is what we call an embedded command. And this is a really important process, because imagine you tell people that they're already successful when they're at their most nervous point. That is how you get people to step into their full level of confidence. I hear people say things like, oh, don't be anxious, or don't be nervous. Well, the brain doesn't know how to not be something. As soon as you say the word like don't be nervous, how do you feel? Nervous. So you want to always make sure that your language is on point to evoke the emotion that you want them to step into. So saying to someone, the question I'm about to ask you, you have the answer for, is going to help really set them up for success.
Yeah.
Now, John, before I get off this, because we talked about modeling, but you also activated in my brain another process that we use, because you highlighted how you think about mindset and what you're going to do to finish a goal. So you say, I have everything I need to finish a race. I have everything I need to do this project. I have everything I need. And you see yourself at the finish line of life. Like, what is that process all about? And say it a
Yeah,
little bit.
well, that's visualization, right? You're letting the cat out of the bag. We can't let everything out on this call. Like, we got to say some stuff. No, but visualization, seeing it in your mind's eye. And, actually, before we hopped on this call, we talked a little bit about self-image, right? Like, how do you see yourself? Or you see yourself as the finisher? Like, I will fit, one of the mantras I have, no matter what event I do is, I can finish this.
Yeah.
Right? I can finish this. And, some of the events I do are timed and they have certain cutoffs. And it's like, I can still do that. I can do this. I can do this, right? Like, it's not a big deal. There's Jesse Isler is one of the guys I love. He does ultra marathons. He's married to Sarah Blakely, who's the founder of Spanx. And he says, one of his mantras when he's doing his 100-mile runs is, this is easy, this is fun, let's just go get it done, right?
I love it.
And that is, part of what I'm thinking in the background. This is easy, this is fun, let's just go get it done. Because what you tell your mind will process.
Well,
right?
I've been
That's
using
self-talk. Yeah.
It's self-talk, and you don't always have to be visualizing yourself finishing something. Sometimes you can visualize some self-love. So I'll tell you, John, tomorrow I have a hair appointment. I love my hairdresser. He's amazing. He's a little bit Edward Scissorhands. His energy is just amazing when you're in his chair. And so all week I've been visualizing how beautiful I'm going to feel tomorrow after I finish my hair appointment. And so just, use the real life examples to look forward to and know that it's in your future. And your future self is cheering you on for what you have to accomplish today, in the next hour, the next minute, or the hard things in life. And we can all do hard things. Yeah. So John, we're almost at time. I can't believe it. We have actually given a full day's worth of content. There's, we do workshops on this the information. So if you want to know more, just reach out to us. We can share these tips and how to bring them into the workplace. Neuro-linguistic programming has changed both of our lives, and it's one of the tools that are necessary for us to be the best leaders possible. But we have a call to action for all of you. And the call to action is this. Think of someone that you really look up to that has skills that you would like to learn, and book a 15-minute coffee date with them. Mm-hmm. And the question you want to ask them, John, is what? What's the best question, or one of the two questions that you can ask them?
Yeah, I know. The best question would be, what got you here? And what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in your journey? Right? Like those, like, you can have a 2-hour conversation just on those two questions, but in 15 minutes. And here's the other thing I want to add to what you just said, Heather. Send those questions in advance. Let them know what you want to do. Let them think about it. This way, when you show up, you're getting the most out of that conversation.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Oftentimes people book people for coffee dates, and then they don't have a purpose, and then they don't have an end result. So if you're booking time and you want to mentor and model them, model the behavior you already want to step into, which is being a true leader. I love that, John. Excellent. I love that.
Well, thank you, Heather. And thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of the podcast. Just remember, when you shift your mindset, you shift your life. Wishing you all a great one. Talk to you all soon. Take care.